Hello, I'm Michael Horowitz, Inspector General for the U.S. Department of Justice. Today, our office released a report assessing the department's law enforcement efforts pursuant to the Tribal Law and Order Act of 2010. The act requires the department to provide legal and investigative assistance to tribes, provide training for tribal justice and law enforcement personnel, and collect data related to crimes in Indian country. We found that while the department and its components have taken some steps to implement the act, a coordinated approach to law enforcement assistance in Indian country is lacking. No single department-level entity oversees Indian country law enforcement activities. As a result, we believe that the department cannot ensure it is in full compliance with the Act's mandates. The department's prior statements indicate that public safety in Indian country is a priority. However, we found that funding and resources for Indian country prosecutions have decreased over time. $6 million was allocated for at least 35 assistant U.S. attorneys in offices with Indian country jurisdiction. Resources were increased through fiscal year 2013, but after that, both total funding and the number of attorneys decreased by 40%. With regard to the Act's data reporting requirements, we found that the Executive Office for U.S. Attorneys and the FBI were collecting the necessary data on their investigation and prosecution efforts in Indian country. However, this data is not being used to evaluate law enforcement efforts or help identify resource and program needs. Furthermore, we found that more than 7 years after the Act became law, the Bureau of Justice Statistics is still developing its process for collecting and analyzing Indian country crime data. This has resulted in outdated and incomplete crime statistics for Indian country. Today's report also includes findings about the department's efforts to train tribal law enforcement and the U.S. Attorney's Office's communication and coordination with tribes and tribal law enforcement. I encourage you to listen to a podcast that we also released today, which features members of our review team discussing those findings in greater depth. To learn more about today's report, please visit our website, oig.justice.gov, where you can read the full report and listen to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.